Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Friday mailbag. You can email in to info@davidpakman.com. Sometimes, in addition to emails, we'll feature a tweet, a Facebook message, a YouTube comment, something else. And I want to start today with a Facebook message. And one of the things every once in a while I try to do, it's a very dangerous thing to do. It's a very fraught thing to do. I will try to engage with a troll or just a nut. And last time I did this, it was an anti-vax person. And I actually said, hey, let's talk to them. Let's figure out how they came to believe the things they believe. And I asked some questions and it was all very weird and it went nowhere and we learned very little. I tried again the other day. This is someone that sent in a message via Facebook. Stanley said, we found fraud attached to you. You need to come clean with your listeners about your scam. So I wrote back, great, please send the information of fraud and we will come clean. No idea what you're talking about offhand. So they write back and they say, I'm sending it to the faculty license department. What's that? And then they said the FCC department. To which I explained, again, this is an experiment to see where it goes. I said, we aren't governed by the FCC. The FCC doesn't govern the internet. Let us know the fraud so that we can investigate. To which Stanley said, yes, you are. Of course, it's the wrong you're broadcasting, which fall in FCC regulations, and a subscriber channel as well, which falls into money's changing hands. And I said, money's changing hands is under the purview of the FTC, not the FCC. Can you let us know the fraud so we can investigate and correct it? To which I never heard back. So another exercise in the futility of trying to substantively engage with the trolls. Next email is from Patrick. Patrick is very angry with me. Patrick says, hi, David. I thought you were an independent thinker. I can't understand you praising Biden. He doesn't know who he is, where he is, or who his wife is. Surely you know this man is a threat to our country and should be impeached for the open borders alone. Now, remember, there has been essentially no change in border policy between Trump and Biden. Just we've stopped pretending that we're building a wall. That's the difference. Also, I'm sure you know, because you are smart, that he is being used as a puppet for Obama, Rice, and Klain. Very obvious. Actual people running the country. You were too young, but the Biden family has been corrupt over 40 years and should be prosecuted. Funny you never talk about the Biden laptop. You were better off supporting Bernie Sanders. Good luck. So this is like, it's got to be presented without comment because there's about a dozen things in there that don't make any sense. But this is someone who believes that they know a lot. And that they're really smart. And this is what we're up against. How do you talk sense into someone like Patrick or DL? I don't know. They signed their email DL, even though it came from Patrick. It's very difficult to do. Dale wrote in and said, ouch, David, you just called Native Americans American Indians. Ouch. So listen, first of all, I didn't call them that. I was reading poll results and the poll referred to American Indians and Alaska Natives. Okay. I use whatever term I understand to be the correct term. There was a time about a decade ago when it was wrong to say American Indian and you were only supposed to say Native American. Now, if you Google it, increasingly what you find is that either term is appropriate, Native American or American Indian. I have no preference one way or the other. I'm just using the terms that are being determined to be appropriate. But I was literally reading a poll. It wasn't a term I came up with, Dale. So see if you can relax a little bit on that. Lisa wrote in about watering times. We talked about restrictions on when you're allowed to water your lawn in different places. And Lisa said, David, on the bonus show, you talked about water use restrictions. You may find it interesting to know that in New Mexico, where it is hot and dry in the summer, we have restrictions on the time of day during which you are allowed to water your lawn or outdoor plants due to the rapid rate of evaporation during peak daylight hours, which leads to water waste. That makes a lot of sense. And I know so little about this that I didn't realize that some of the restrictions are based on that. But that makes a lot of sense, and many such examples of people writing in with comments like Lisa's. Josh wrote in about my interview with Republican Mike Cargile, and Josh said, "Hey, David, how do we know Mike Cargile isn't the demon-possessed one? Prior to your interviews with him, I didn't believe in demon possession, but surely a demon-possessed person would sound exactly like Mike Cargile. Where do they find these people? It is beyond me." That interview with Mike Cargile triggered such a reaction from the audience. If you haven't seen it, check it out. He tells us who he believes are the demon-possessed people. It's mostly blacks and Jews that he names, which I pointed out to him. It's a wild interview, and it is shocking that folks like this exist. It really is. It was eye-opening, for lack of a better term. Mika wrote in and said, "Hey, David, I was thinking about the story that Fred Trump was humored into believing he still ran the Trump organization when he had Alzheimer's, how he went to the office every day to sign blank papers and talk to a decoy secretary. Now knowing that Donald Trump kept those classified documents, argued they belonged to him, refused to give them back, even kept some of them in his desk, it's almost like props to play president. On top of all the rightful president stolen election future reinstatement nonsense, the parallel is amusing. How much of the narrative is grift and how much is delusion? I used to think all grift, but I'm not sure anymore. Regards, Mika." Yeah, it's a good question. I made this analogy earlier in the week. The idea of Trump in a sort of Truman Show, similar to his own father when his father had Alzheimer's. At this point, I don't even pretend to know. I genuinely don't know how much is grift and how much is delusion. But it seems as though it's not 100% either. It's some mix of the two. I got an email about Latinx. "David, I heard your explanation of why Latinx is imposed by white progressives and that it is not used by Latino and Latina people. While that may be the case within your circles, the use of the ending with X is a way for queer folk of romantic languages to express and address each other. You can see that in the US with the onset of MX to replace Mr. and Mrs. Full disclosure, I am a queer white progressive. However, within my social media circles and physical spaces, people of all origins, Filipino, European, South America, Latinx is commonplace because even Latino, Latina is exclusive. I would be curious if you have any statistical data to back up your view on the term. I can only speak from my experience." Yeah, I mean, when you actually look at surveys of Latinos, for example, there's a 2019 survey, national survey of Latinos, found only 3% of, and again, here, you can use whatever term you want to use, Hispanics, Latinos, only 3% of Hispanics/Latinos have ever used the term Latinx. Ever. 3% of Latinos, okay? The League of United Latin American Citizens announced in 2021, they're going to stop using Latinx because almost all Latinos don't like it and don't use it. So it is widely documented that almost no actual Latino folks use Latinx. By the way, you should see there's this whole other thing. I don't even know that I want to get into this, but there's this whole other thing where in Spanish, words are gendered in that, for example, if we talk about the word friends, which the singular is amigo, okay? The plural would be amigos or amigas. If you say amigos, it's either a group of male friends or a mixed group, men and women. If you say amigas with an A, it's understood that it's a group of female friends. This is the language, okay? This exists in, French. This is the way it is in Spanish. There's a new thing that has come up, which is they replace, instead of an O or an E, the neutral, I'm sorry, I just said that wrong. Instead of an O or an A, you instead use an E. So instead of amigos or amigas, it's amigues. And it is another thing which I don't do. and which is similar to Latinx that has started to sort of pervade the language. And anyway, maybe a topic for another day. But there's my data, those two studies that I cited. Next email from Sonia. Sonia is really angry that I said I'm not a cat guy. It's not a big deal. Some people aren't badger people. Some people aren't into rhinos. Some people are against against hippos. Sorry, now I got confused. Sonia says, David, sir, love the show, proud subscriber. You're an educated, articulate, and astute. You are educated, articulate, and astute. It's refreshing to watch your show and know without a doubt that like-minded progressives still exist. But I lost some respect for you when you recently said you don't like cats. There is a rule amongst cat lovers that says if you meet a person who doesn't like cats, run the other way. I ascribe to this in my personal relationships, but it will certainly not deter me from your show. You may think of me as a crazy cat lady. She says she's 60, but I've loved cats and all animals my entire life. You are a father now. You never know what surprises are in store. I hope that one day you will be blessed with the love of a cat. Listen, this is not, I don't hate cats. I don't advocate violence against cats. I'm just not a cat guy. You know, I like dogs. I like, I like zebras. I don't know. I'm just not a cat guy. It's not a big deal. And no offense to anybody that owns cats. Jared said, hey, David, wanted to message you to say thanks for your finance section on your website. I picked up a couple of the books. I'm in my final semester of college. Don't know much about finance, but the selection you provided looked perfect. Just wanted to say thanks. Yeah, listen, if you want my list of recommendations for personal finance books, you can find it at davidpakman.com/finance. Many such people have found it interesting. Jonathan wrote in, and Jonathan says, hey, David, you mentioned on a call that colleges are prepared to pay handsomely for conservatives like Ben Shapiro, but not for progressives. That doesn't fit with the image of colleges being heavily skewed to the left, you know, postmodernist, Marxist, blah, blah. What have I missed? Yeah, listen, without delving at all into the academic biases of colleges, what I can tell you is most of the speakers that go to college campuses and are paid by groups, not by the college itself. It's not like the Department of Poli-Sci pays for Ben Shapiro to go speak at a school. And the on-campus right-wing groups are way better funded. You know, there's these groups, Students for Liberty, and I'm making that up. There's a dozen or so groups. The groups are way better funded on the right than on the left. And so that's why, in my experience, the money is way better for right-wing campus speakers than for left-wing campus speakers. My experience, and I'm glad to be pointed in a different direction. You can email in info@davidpakman.com if you have something to say. And remember, September 19th, we have a fantastic one-day membership special that we will be doing. If you have been thinking, maybe I'll get a membership, I don't know, sounds interesting, get on my newsletter at davidpakman.com. And then on the morning of September 19th, you will get a beautiful email telling you how to sign up at a historically, humiliatingly low price. All right. See you then, or on today's bonus show.